This is the Smith & Wesson M&P 380 Shield EZ. As the marketing materials declare, it is a gun that was created to be easy to shoot, easy to rack with easy to load magazines. Since its release in early 2018, the 380 Shield has been praised as an excellent self-defense and concealed carry pistol for new shooters, small-statured females, and anyone with below average grip strength. I happen to agree with all of those points, but even if you don't belong to one of those aforementioned categories of shooters, I think it would be a mistake to dismiss the 380 Shield as a gun that's just for ladies and old men. But before I get into that, let's take a closer look at what makes this gun so user-friendly. First of all, the slide really is super easy to rack. It takes almost no effort at all. If you've never had trouble racking the slide on a pistol, I'm sure you've been out shooting before with someone who has. For a lot of people, this one issue can make a trip to the range seriously miserable, but it's pretty much a non-issue with the 380 Shield. On the top of the slide, there is a loaded chamber indicator to give you a visual and tactile reminder of when the gun is loaded. The single stack 8-round magazines have a convenient feature that you typically only find on 22 caliber pistols. There's a thumb stud on either side of the magazine body so you can pull down the follower as you load the magazine. Again, it's a small thing for most of us who shoot pistols all the time, but for someone with hand strength or dexterity issues, loading mags can be a real headache. This feature is another indication that Smith & Wesson was genuinely paying attention to a severely underserved segment of the handgun market when they designed this gun. The 380 Shield has a lot in common with the M&P 22 Compact. The internals are different, but they share almost exactly the same outer dimensions and controls. One feature I was glad to see they carried over from the 22 Compact is the manual thumb safety. Now, other M&Ps have manual thumb safeties, but none of them are like the ones on this and the 22 Compact. It's actually an optional feature on the 380 Shield. You can get it without the manual safety, and generally speaking, I'm kind of agnostic on manual safeties on handguns. There are plenty of valid arguments for and against, but if you're going to have a manual safety lever on a pistol, I think it should be designed like this one. It gives you a very positive click when you turn it on or off. It's ambidextrous. The lever is the same on both sides of the gun, and it sits in just the right spot. So as you get a grip on the pistol, the thumb of the firing hand can rest right on top of the safety lever so you can easily deactivate it. And then the thumb can just stay there, hang out on top of the safety while you're firing. From what I've seen, that seems to work well on this gun, whether you've got big hands or small hands. As far as manual safeties go, I think this is pretty ideal. Even if you get the version of this pistol without the manual safety, it's still going to have the grip safety. If this lever on the back strap is not depressed, the gun cannot fire. Now, I know that not everyone was excited to see a grip safety when the 380 Shield was first announced, but it's a feature that has some merit. In place of a grip safety, most of the other pistols in the M&P series have a two-piece trigger like this one. This is what makes the gun drop safe. Without it, if the gun were to fall and hit the ground like on the back of the slide or something like that, the inertia could essentially pull the trigger and cause the gun to fire. So the problem is that if you've got the two-piece trigger and your hand is not just the right size or shape, your trigger finger may not actually be able to reach the part of the trigger at the bottom that deactivates the safety, and you can't actually shoot the gun. The 380 Shield eliminates this problem by having a one-piece trigger, but it's still drop safe because it's got the grip safety. Now, I'm sure someone out there is going to have trouble with this, but if you grip the gun with anything even approaching a correct technique, the grip safety should disengage without issue. It really only has to be pressed in about halfway for the gun to fire. I tried shooting the 380 Shield with a very loose grip. I tried gripping it really low on the frame, and I actually had a hard time making it not function unless I put almost no pressure on the back strap. The grip safety also offers an extra layer of risk mitigation when you're holstering the gun. If you thumb the back of the slide the way you would a hammer-fired pistol, it will force you to release the grip safety. So as the gun goes into the holster, in addition to keeping your finger well away from the trigger, you've also got this grip safety as another fail-safe to make sure you don't end up with an extra hole in your leg. The disassembly of the 380 Shield is another user-friendly feature. You just pull out the mag, lock open the slide, rotate the takedown lever 90 degrees, and then the slide just comes right off. And now that we're inside the gun, we can see that there's another carryover from the 22 Compact. Unlike most of the other pistols in the M&P series, the 380 Shield is actually hammer fired, not striker fired. It is a true single action only design. There is the hammer right there. And when you pull the trigger, the hammer comes down like that, and it would hit the firing pin right there in the back of the slide. The trigger in this gun is pretty light. In this particular sample, it is 4.5 pounds with a relatively short length of travel of about 1/4 inch. That, of course, is a two-sided coin. It makes the gun easy to shoot, but it also makes the gun easy to shoot when you don't necessarily intend to. I would rather this gun have like a 5 or 6 pound trigger with a longer length of travel, more like a double action pistol. That longer travel seems to help mitigate errors in trigger finger discipline, at least as much as trigger weight. But doing that would probably also increase the trigger reach, which could be a real problem for a lot of the intended users of this gun. So I understand why the trigger is light and short on the EZ380, but I can also see that being a potential problem for a gun that's being marketed specifically to inexperienced shooters. Now, I don't necessarily have any easy solutions for that, but say what you will about how hard it is to shoot a J-frame snubnose, but it's also really hard to have an unintentional discharge with a 12-pound double-action trigger unless you really work at it. In any case, the trigger is not the main reason the 380 Shield is ridiculously easy to shoot. That is more a result of the very low recoil. It has as little felt recoil as any centerfire pistol I can think of, short of a 3-pound all-steel competition gun. Part of that is because of its size. We think of 380s today as being tiny little pocket pistols, and the 380 Shield is obviously much larger than those. It's the same height as the 9mm Shield with the extended 8-round magazine, and the slide and barrel are just under half an inch longer. It's closer in size to some of the older metal framed 380s like the CZ83, the Beretta Cheetah, and the Bersa Thunder. It is thinner and lighter than any of those, or really most other guns in its size category. It's just 21.6 ounces loaded, which is the same as a Glock 43. Those classic metal framed pistols I mentioned are all soft shooting guns, but not as much as you might think, because they're all straight blowback designs, while the 380 Shield is a recoil operated pistol. Now, if you don't have any idea what that means, the technical details are not all that important, but generally speaking, if you've got two pistols of the same caliber and relatively the same size, the recoil operated gun is going to have noticeably less felt recoil than the blowback gun. And that brings me back to why I think the 380 Shield should not be relegated only to people who have trouble manipulating other handguns. A low recoil pistol is something that anyone can benefit from. For the novice, removing the distraction of recoil makes it a lot easier to focus on learning the fundamentals of marksmanship. For the intermediate shooter, effective recoil management, where the sights just unconsciously pop right back onto the same spot following every shot, that is one of the most difficult skills to master. If you don't get some good instruction and practice fairly regularly, you probably won't ever really get good at it, especially with the popular small service caliber handguns. The 380 Shield makes recoil management almost trivial, so if you can't get in as much range time as you would like, you can spend that time focusing on fine-tuning things like trigger control or your draw stroke. And if you're already a pretty good shooter, a gun like the 380 Shield will let you shoot even better. I can run this thing with ridiculously fast splits, usually around like 0.17 without a whole lot of effort. Even if I didn't plan to carry one, I would probably consider buying a 380 Shield just because it's so fun to shoot. And of course, it also makes a great loaner pistol when I take other people out to the range. We have actually been planning this review for a long time now. We picked this gun up last year shortly after it came out. Since then, I have let a lot of people try it out, including about a dozen or so new shooters. And yes, it is a gun that everyone likes to shoot, but more than that, it's a huge confidence booster, especially for people who previously thought that the only pistol they could really manage was a 22. So I hate to sound like a complete fanboy, but I really can't think of many bad things to say about the 380 Shield. It's probably the best idea Smith & Wesson has had in the last decade. MSRP is $399, and right now you can usually pick them up for somewhere between $300 and $350. If you decide to get one, be sure to feed it with quality 380 ACP ammunition. I've had good results with 95 grain Speer Lawman Total Metal Jacket in this gun. Of course, we've got that and all the other major brands of 380 that you can order from us with lightning fast shipping at luckygunner.com.